Welcome to the Surviving BPD Relationship Breakup Podcast. If someone in your life has BPD, you know how difficult it can be, and you need to learn how to heal from those toxic relationships. And that's where this show comes in. Expert education, expert knowledge, expert insight, and delivered with compassion and empathy. With your host, counselor and trauma recovery coach, ajmahari. To purchase and book sessions with AJ, go to ajmahari.ca. Now your host, AJ Mahari.
A couple things before we start this episode. I have a website for this podcast, and it's at survivingbpdrelationshipbreakup.com. Interactive website. It's a website is its own feed for the podcast and also for my YouTube channel. So if you'd like to get a lot of the videos that aren't in this podcast, you'd like to check those out, you can do that at survivingbpdrelationshipbreakup.com. I would just like to encourage you to please leave a 5-star rating for this podcast if you find it helpful, to help this podcast keep growing and keep reaching more and more people who could benefit from this content. I get a lot of people with BPD rating it at 1 star because, they have all these problems with what I'm saying, and they think it's horrible and disgusting and all that kind of BPD kind of stuff. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to this podcast, or welcome back. In this podcast episode, entitled When Doubt Becomes a Legacy of BPD Love, 5 Reasons Closure is an Illusion. Let's dive into that. One of the most haunting experiences for people, especially with codependency, but in general anyone, after loving someone with untreated borderline personality disorder, is the lingering illusion and the lingering need, really. The lingering illusion of closure and a lingering need for closure. For many who loved intensely, sacrificed deeply, abandoned yourselves, unfortunately, and endured the on-again, off-again storm of a BPD relationship breakup, it doesn't feel like it ever ends. Instead of clarity, you're left with a gnawing sense of doubt. You wonder, did I imagine the love? Did I do something wrong? Was any of this relationship real? Who is this person that I was loving or that I still love or care about? This episode is for those of you who are carrying that burden of uncertainty. I'll explore why closure is so elusive in these relationships, and the chasing of it is quite an illusion, and how doubt becomes a part of the legacy that you will experience and will need to find your own healing and closure about. And most importantly, what steps you can take to reclaim some peace. So firstly, why closure is rare in BPD relationships. Closure requires 3 things at base. 1, each person taking personal responsibility for themselves. 2, a mutual recognition of what went wrong, at least to some degree or other. And 3, a sense of shared accountability for the ending, or each person taking their own accountability, or a partner that might have hurt you taking accountability for having hurt you. But a lot of people with BPD aren't even aware of how they've hurt you or how they've affected you, which is no excuse or anything for people with BPD, but it's another reason why they just might not even have the ability or the awareness to have a closure conversation. And usually whenever people try that, it just gets into the person with BPD either stonewalling you more if they're quiet borderline, if they're petulant borderline. They're going to rage and yell and accuse you and turn you into the villain. The person with BPD doesn't take any personal responsibility or accountability, blames you, and moves on quickly because they are repeating toxic BPD patterns. So their moving on quickly isn't anything to do with emotional maturity. It's absolutely nothing to do with them understanding what happened or taking responsibility for most of what they did, how they impacted you negatively, and those sorts of things. And so when people with BPD move on quickly, they're not really moving on like you might think, like you want to heal and eventually move on. No, they're just going from the frying pan to the fire, so to speak, of what's going to happen with the next person and how these patterns keep repeating. And instead of mutual recognition, you may have experienced blame shifting, rewriting of history, a lot of blame and just vilification, and or ghosting, or being discarded. Instead of shared accountability, you may have been left holding the weight of responsibility, feeling like it was all your fault, because sometimes they'll say that, wondering what you could have done differently. And it's really important to know there's nothing you could have done differently that would have been able to stop, preclude the relationship rupture and breakdown and eventual breakup, even if you were a perfect human being. The result is not closure after BPD relationship breakup, ghosting, or discard. It's confusion. You're left chasing explanations you'll likely never get. And that's why it's important beginning your own healing recovery process, and I'm out here to work with people that resonate with me, because it's in your own healing process, and often in family of origin and inner child work, that people can really put the dots together of why it felt so compelling or feels so compelling that you need that closure, or you're just never going to be okay. It's not really true, but it can certainly feel that way. Secondly, the nature of doubt after a BPD breakup. The doubt is not accidental. The doubt is not all your fault. The doubt isn't just about you. It's baked into the fabric of what the relationship really was and how unhealthy it was, and the trauma-bonded reality of these relationships. Idealization and devaluation create two conflicting, quote, realities, unquote. You remember the love bombing or the idealization, the mirroring, but you also remember the rage or withdrawal, which was true. On-off cycles reinforce uncertainty. Every return feels like proof that it meant something. And every disappearance feels like evidence that you were never enough. By the way, nobody is ever enough for a person with untreated BPD. Unresolved questions become an open loop in your mind, causing endless rumination, which is so painful. Did they love me? Was it all manipulation? Why did it end the way that it did? Why won't he or she talk to me? Why do they think it's all my fault? What did I do? This self-doubt for people with codependency turns often into not only self-doubt, but really judgmental, cruel against yourself, blame. And then that might be a reshaming experience for you, not only what the borderline might have said in a ragey episode and there's no closure, or how you take it on as being all your fault, at least in the beginning. And it wasn't your fault. This inner tug of war is why doubt becomes the legacy. It's not just about them, it's about how the pattern has imprinted on you. So the codependent, like your role in doubt, I want to be really compassionate here. Codependents often carry their own unresolved wounds from childhood, abandonment fears, low self-worth, low self-esteem, a need for externalized validation, and deep need to fix other, to kind of feel like you might be, there's something inside you that needs a little bit of fixing, or feeling that you needed to be chosen. You needed to matter. You have a right to matter. This means you may interpret the chaos of the relationship as your failure, instead of seeing the relationship as toxic, impossible, and unsustainable. You wonder what more you could have done. Doubt grows because part of you doesn't feel worthy of love that is steady and reciprocal. And that can be really unconscious, that reality of feeling in codependency. This isn't about blame. It's about understanding how your history collides with the borderline's fragility to produce a relationship where closure almost never comes. And fourthly, the emotional toll of living without closure after a BPD breakup or discard. You'll be replaying the conversations in your mind, ruminating. Some people end up stalking social media for hidden clues or answers. Many people with codependency after a BPD breakup of any type are feeling unworthy and replaceable. Like you weren't good enough, right? Which it's not true that you're not good enough. It's just true that for a borderline, you can never be good enough. So that's more about the borderlines than people with codependency. And also clinging to the, quote, what ifs, unquote, that keeps you from moving forward or even focusing on yourself. And so many people after the BPD breakup and all this self-doubt and more self-blame, self-judgment, feeling responsible for what you're not responsible for, it just fuels the rumination. There still is a trauma bond there that needs to be broken. And it is so incredibly painful. And many people still think, want, believe, hope we can try again. Or maybe after they get some therapy, which would really mean 10, 15 years later. But people are kind of thinking sooner than that. Maybe we can hook up in the future. That's not your pathway to healing. That's not your way out of rumination, self-doubt, and the horrible, painful reality of self-doubt and etc. after a BPD breakup. This emotional toll can be worse than the relationship was itself because it stretches on long after any goodbye or if you got ghosted or whatever happened at the, quote, part that's supposed to end it all, unquote, end all the relationship, the, quote, goodbye, unquote. It is in many ways the aftershock of the borderline storm. And fifthly and finally, breaking the illusion of needing closure or thinking you're going to get closure or some partial closure you thought was going to make sense for you. Closure is not given. It's not needed from the other person. It's created. Here are 3 pathways to begin working on closure. Name the illusion. As you recognize the fantasy bond and the trauma bond, recognize that your ex cannot and will not give you the kind of explanation or accountability you seek. It's just not within the capacity of somebody with borderline personality disorder. No, people are probably thinking, well, what? So that just means they get off the hook? But again, that would be you refocusing on them instead of you. So here is the main point too. Shift the focus. Instead of asking, did they love me? Ask, did this love nurture me? Or did this, quote, love, unquote, really hurt and harm me? And thirdly, reclaim your power. Write your own ending. And for a lot of people, writing your own ending is working with someone in your healing and recovery journey. And I've been working with clients for 35 years, helping them to write their own ending and reclaim their own empowerment. So I'm out here to work with you if I resonate with you. Journal the truth of what you experienced, the good, the bad, and the harmful. By narrating the story yourself, many clients share this with me, by the way, as part of, working to heal. By narrating the story yourself, you close, eventually with some other healing work, what is still an open loop. The legacy of doubt can feel like a shadow over your heart. But remember, closure is not found in someone else's apology or explanation. It's found in your decision to stop questioning your own worth and believing in the fantasy aspect of the trauma bond. The love may have felt real at moments, but the inconsistency was real too. You are not meant to live in perpetual confusion. You are meant to heal, to anchor yourself, and to know yourself or reclaim or find yourself again or more of yourself. And to trust that peace can and will come, but not from them, but from within you, in your own healing and recovery journey. So may you release the doubt over time that has weighed heavy on your spirit and on your mind and fueling so much rumination. May you find clarity in your own truth in a healing and recovering process, working with someone, because it's not a do-it-yourself kind of deal after these really traumatizing BPD relationships. May you journey forward, not within confusion, but with courage, knowing you are worthy of steady, enduring love, that right now you need to do some healing because you need to become, first and foremostly, your own best friend and learn how to nurture that wounded child within. And as always, take care.
You've been listening to the Surviving BPD Relationship Breakup Podcast with your host, counselor and trauma recovery coach, ajmahari. For more or get sessions with AJ, go to ajmahari.ca. See you next time.